Hi everyone, this is Emily. I need to take a moment before the show to tell you about mine and Bernie's latest offering, the Summer 2024 Sprint Cohort for Community Builders. After years of virtually co-working together as small business operators, Bernie and I have been through it all. If you've ever felt overcommitted, unsupported, or like you're losing opportunities because you just can't seem to get ahead, then you'll know the kind of challenges we're talking about. It took years of self-examination, trial and error, hundreds of business and productivity books between us, and one Scrum Master certificate for us to finally come up with something that works to overcome our workflow issues and get the work done. We have created a series of small group virtual events hosted twice monthly to give you the support you need. Think of it like therapy sessions for your workflow. We will help you iron out the wrinkles in your process, isolate issues that keep tripping you up, help you build up your community, and guide you through designing a personal work system that is as unique to you as your fingerprint and can grow and change with you. Plus, it's intentionally priced as the same cost as an average co-working desk so that it's as accessible as possible. If you're ready to feel like you're on top of everything, check out the link in the show notes, which leads to the sign-up page.
Okay, hello and welcome everybody. I'm Tony Bacigalupo. This is the Coworking Values Podcast in collaboration with my Belongfulness Project and a whole bunch of wonderful people like the European Coworking Assembly. So check out all of them. We are also getting more active on the Coworking LinkedIn group. So if you literally search Coworking on LinkedIn, you'll find a little red coffee cup logo and lots of fun discussion going on there. But I am very honored and privileged to be hanging out with Holly Cooke, who is the founder of the London Lonely Girls Club. Holly, welcome. Thanks so much for taking the time to come with me.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So we're going to start off real straightforward. What is the London Lonely Girls Club? How did it get started? What's the origin story?
Yeah, absolutely. So what originally was for nearly 5 years, the London Lonely Girls Club has now in the last sort of 6 months transitioned into what has become the Lonely Girls Club. And we are a community that was created to help women connect, make friends and make life less lonely. And our origin story started out with me being one very lonely graduate who had moved to London. I'm originally from an area in the UK called Stoke-on-Trent. I'd always had these big dreams about living in London and what my life was going to look like here. I'd done a fashion communication degree, so I thought my life was going to be like The Devil Wears Prada, but the UK edition. And I got here, I moved in with some family friends who are amazing, but they are kind of my parents' age. And I didn't know anyone in London. I knew the family friends I'd moved in with. I knew the people that had hired me for my marketing job, and that was it. None of my friends from uni were moving to London. Everyone was kind of still where we went to uni. And I got here and very quickly realized how lonely it can be. I'd always been surrounded by people in various social circles, communities at uni, at home. And I got here and there wasn't a natural place for me to meet new people. And I got really used to doing things on my own, going to concerts, going to the theatre, going for dinner. But actually, although I think doing things on your own is so important, it's such a good skill to have, I didn't want to just do everything on my own all the time. And so I did what most millennials or Gen Zs do when we have a problem. I Googled it. How do I make friends in London? And at the time, 5.5 years ago, there wasn't really anything out there. The only thing that was really hitting that space was Bumble BFF, which was the friendship version of the Bumble dating app. So I got on there and then quickly was like, oh, this feels a bit strange because obviously it's set up in the exact same way as the dating app, lots of swiping and pictures, but also going on a coffee or a lunch with a complete stranger, one-on-one in a platonic setting, felt really scary, very anxiety inducing. I'd heard some horror stories. What if you don't get on? What if you don't click? What if you had nothing in common? What if the conversation dies after 2 minutes and then you've got nothing else to say? And so I had this idea, what if you could get 4 or 5 of you together to go for coffee, to go to the theatre, to go for dinner, to go to that new cocktail bar, whatever your kind of interest is. Because then at least if there's 4 or 5 of you, you can keep a conversation going. People have different things to talk about, different things to share. And so I had this idea, set up a little Facebook group, told the 20 odd people that I'd spoken to on Bumble BFF that I'd done it and that we were going to be going for pancakes in a couple of weeks' time. I think 5 or 6 of them joined. And I didn't think it was going to last very long. I just hoped that I personally could make some friends, but that was one person who had been in London for a bit longer than me and maybe had some other connections, whether from other friends or the uni. And I could slowly start to sort of meet new people and integrate that way. But 5.5 years later, we're still here, we're still going. And now we aren't just the London Lonely Girls Club, but we're Lonely Girls Club. And we've got branches in Manchester, Nottingham and Birmingham as well across the UK. And one of the UK's largest communities for women. So we have digital forums, we have a newsletter, and then we run events every single week.
Wow. Okay. So it's been a few years. I love so this initial kickoff, you first of all, you Googled how to make friends in London, which is like, I'd love to know what those search results look like, like what are the answers that exist out there? I feel like there's a huge untapped opportunity for someone to just build a whole website just to answer that question. But you connected with people with Bumble BFF, and then you reached out to those people, and those were your kind of initial core group that you started with. And
exactly.
These were people you had met with already previously? No,
not met any of them. Never met. Total strangers on the internet. I just kind of said, hey, it's been nice chatting with you. Gonna set up this Facebook group. Gonna go see if we can organize a group for us to go for brunch. Please join if you fancy it. It's gonna be really chill. But it just thought it'd be nice to get 4 or 5 of us to go for brunch. If you want to come or you want to join and then organise something, further down the line, feel free. And I think, I say 5 or 6 people did. And then as time went on, word of mouth, and I think Facebook does a sort of a recommendation-y thing as well with different groups. It just kind of went from there.
Incredible. And so, first of all, I want to reflect, you went for pancakes, which is a very smart move. And so what did you pick up on in terms of who those initial people were that started showing up? What did they have in common, or what was kind of the range of the folks who were there?
Yeah, I think it's interesting for us because even in those early days, we've always kind of had 2 different groups of people that engage with our community. One is the people that come to our events. The other is the people that are just in our digital forums that post themselves, comment, post to say, I live in this specific part of London. Does anybody else live here and want to go for a walk? But I think we've got such a diverse community. And originally when it started, I think it was much tighter. It was mainly women in their 20s because that's obviously how old I was. People who had just moved to London, graduates, people that were expats coming from other locations. And then as time's gone on, that's kind of really broadened out. But I think the story for most people was just that they were looking to connect with others. They were looking for friendship, looking for community, looking to find their people, just looking for people to hang out with, to go for lunch, go for coffee, go to the theatre, because London's got so many amazing theatre shows, go to on a night out. That oftentimes, you may even have known 1 or 2 people, but in a city like this, everyone is so busy, so hectic. You can have a community of 3 or 4 or 5 people around you, but if they're all super busy over the next 3 weeks and you want to do something this weekend, it can feel very isolating still. Yeah,
that feels like, I mean, I want to say I grew up in New York. I, as an adult, spent most of my time in New York City, and it's similar. You could have tons of friends or contacts and still somehow feel very lonely. Have kind of this like paradox of, I'm free on a Friday night. What do I do? Do I text 30 different people and and probably not get an answer from any of them? So that's pretty awesome. Like to be able to address that problem. So how does it work? Like I join. Obviously, I don't join, but like if somebody joins the London Lonely Girls Club, what's my honor? What's my welcome into the experience? How do I get involved?
Yeah, so we're a completely free community to join, and there's 2 ways people can do that. Either you can join our Facebook group or you can sign up to our newsletter. Some people do both. With our Facebook community, obviously, it's much more engaged and there's lots going on. I think we have about 50 or 60 posts submitted every single day, and some of those will be new people to London or new people to Manchester or new people to Birmingham looking for a hairdresser recommendation, looking for a coffee shop recommendation or a gym recommendation. Some people are, oh, my boyfriend's unwell, I've got a spare ticket to this event, would anyone like to come with me? Some people are, I've just moved here, I'm looking for a group to hang out with or to build a group of friends. Some people are, oh, I've live in this very specific area, I would like a yoga buddy, would anyone like to join me and go every single week? And it can feel very different. And then we also have our newsletter, where that's more kind of everything that's going on from an organizational perspective, so all the events that we run every single week, any sort of offers that we're able to get for our community members on either sort of you guys were talking about co-working earlier, whether we team up with a co-working club and we're able to get community members discounts and that kind of thing. So it gives people options of how they want to engage. Some people only ever come to our events, they are in our Facebook community, but they just use that to click through, book a ticket to an event and come along, because actually that feels a bit less scary, because you know there's going to be like a host there on the day, me or one of my team. Everyone is there for the same reason. Everyone's there to make friends. Everyone's there to connect. Everyone's there to have a chat and hang out. And that can feel, although it is scary, because the entire focus is on that, it can feel a little bit easier to step into as a first step. Whereas other people, a big group, even of say 20 people, is a bit too overwhelming, and they just want to post in the Facebook community and go for coffee with one person at a cool new coffee shop they spotted, and you can kind of do any combination of all of that if you want.
That's awesome. So there's a lot of self-organizing, it sounds like.
Absolutely, and we actively encourage that. For us, it's all about our community members getting involved and accessing things as and when they want or they need, or that meets their needs. And you know, we run events every single week, oftentimes because we've got multiple branches across the country. Some weekends we'll have 3 or 4 events happening. But for community members that maybe, you know, they want to do something on a random Thursday night after work, they can post and organise that and go for drinks with someone. Or if, you know, I say your boyfriend or your housemate's got ill and you have got a spare ticket to a gig and you want someone to come with you, you can. And for us, it's really just about giving people that space and that tool to connect, to find others with similar interests, whether that's in person, whether that's digitally, in a way that makes sense for them, because that's different for everyone. What everyone needs and the way that everyone wants to connect and wants community, wants friendship is different, and that's okay. It's not one size fits all.
Yes, exactly. I mean, especially for a group like this, where the thing you have in common is that you're looking for more social connection, you probably have a very wide array of different kinds of interests. So it makes a lot of sense. You mentioned partnering with a co-working space, so you know I have to dig in on that one. Tell me, what space was it? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so it's actually a co-working club. It's a startup, very new, and what they do is it's not an actual physical space. They are more of a community, and they move around locations every month, and they do it, and they support local independent venues who maybe wouldn't get people in on a normal Wednesday lunchtime. It would be quiet, and they go in and they'll take over an entire bit of the space, and fill that with people who are solo entrepreneurs, female founders, people that maybe work completely remotely and are just looking to hang out with other people during the day. And they go to various different venues that wouldn't necessarily have people there on a random Wednesday lunchtime or on a Tuesday afternoon. And it is able to support those local businesses, but also gives freelancers or founders somewhere to go and, you know, work with other people and have someone to chat to over their lunch break and stuff. And we were able to kind of support them and highlight them, but also get a discount for our community members on sort of their tickets as well, or booking on with those guys if you wanted to join. So it's quite nice to be able to have the best of both worlds in that regard.
That's awesome. I imagine that this naturally leads to collaboration with other organizers of communities locally, which is great. And what about for yourself? I mean, you know, you kind of started this with a very specific need in mind for you. How is you must have so much more on your social calendar now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess the reason why this has carried on and still continued is because I personally made some incredible friends. I personally made those friendships, realized that what we were doing and how we were setting up and the meetups and the events that we were running really worked, because I made those friends, and then the feedback we were getting from other people was that they did, and it kind of got to the point where I was like, well, I can't stop now. If this is something that people, you know, other people really need, and actually with big cities and sort of life in general, things are so transient, so changeable, that the pandemic happened and half my group of friends that I'd made when I first moved to London all left and didn't come back. And then I'm at a point now where a good portion of my friends are moving out of London because they're buying houses, settling down, having kids, and doing that in London isn't for them. That you are constantly needing to meet new people, to add new friendships or new connections into your life, and that's okay. And it's quite nice because then I have the community to be able to do that for myself, but we're here to support other people in that. And I've met some of the best people I've ever met through the community. Like next weekend, I'm going to Sweden with a friend that I made at our 8th ever event, which was pre-COVID. I think we've done over 150, 200 now, so that was a long time ago. And we're still really good friends now. We're going on holiday in a couple of weeks, well, literally next week. So it's been transformative for my life. I mean, my life is now completely different than what it was 5.5 years ago, and so much of it is down to this community.
Wow. And you said over 150 events?
That's the best guess. We stopped counting a long time ago. Yeah, definitely over 150. It's probably over 200 now because of all of our branches and all of our different things that we do, which is just crazy. But I think even this year alone, I think we've at least run one event a week, if not two. So there's been a lot going on.
Yes, I'm sure it's kept you quite busy.
Yeah.
So just talking about that for a second, one of the things that tends to happen with community organizers when they start with a very kind of purpose-driven reason is that they started to solve a problem for themselves, for the friends around them, and then it takes off and becomes bigger. So then you have a decision to make about, do I turn this into a business? Do I set some kind of a boundary for myself because it's starting to take over my life? How's that? And you've been at this for a good number of years now. So how's that played out for you? What's your relationship to this? Do I call it an organization? Like how's that gone?
Absolutely. That is 100% my story. Has been kind of in a way reverse working what this looks like, what this is. We just started out very much. I thought it was going to die within 3 months. So there was no long-term plan. And that has been something that we've been on a journey of for the last, I guess, really 18 months as the community really has grown and has developed. And we've kind of shot up in numbers and membership, and it's taken up more of my personal time and energy. And has been the journey we're on. And originally we were looking at charity options and becoming what is called the CIC here in the UK, Community Interest Company. But actually doing more and more research, loneliness and charities in particular are closing at a really high rate. And the the people that we work with aren't necessarily those who are being necessarily at risk or would be sort of big people that we would get funding for. So the decision was then, right, okay, where do we go from here? What does that look like? My background is in marketing. So for the last 5 and a bit years, I've been working full time in marketing roles across London. Where do we go from here? This is becoming very big, which is incredible. And we're able to help a significant number of people every single week and every month. But where does that go? And we've now transitioned into more of a business model. We call ourselves an organisation. We're kind of a social impact business, I suppose. Where everything we do is all about helping our community members. We don't have sort of angel investors or VCs. It's me and a laptop, really. And we're now in a bit of a transition phase into that becoming more of a full-time, full-scale thing, whilst also honouring our community members and why we do what we do, which is a journey. And I think, as you say, is one that a lot of people in this space go on and have to figure out for themselves, which is exciting, if not a little bit terrifying for a lot of us.
Yeah. So what kinds of models have you been exploring? Are you taking on sponsors? You doing paid events?
So our events are all paid for, so all ticketed. You have to book on to join. Our lowest cost is £1, which is for our walks, and then they go up from there depending on what's included in the ticket, what the activity is, how long it is, all that kind of thing. We've taken sponsorship. We work with a variety of different brands, venues, or other businesses and organisations, and then also have different options because we have such a big sort of social media following and presence now. Things that maybe typically you would associate with influencers, like sponsored content rather than sponsored events. But I think there's a lot of options out there. While still, for me and for us, it's all about honouring our community members, all about supporting them and being their point of need, which can feel quite challenging against a bit when you're suddenly a business model that has got a bottom line and you need to hit all the, all the many things that you need to hit. But it's also, for me, slow and steady wins the race. That this isn't about hitting hundreds of thousands of people overnight. This is individual people with individual stories that have got lives that they want to hopefully impact, which we want to help with.
Yeah. And I'm very interested in the brand relationship dynamic because, of course, you are a steward and a guardian of your community. So you always want to be extremely careful about who you're letting into your circle. Yeah. But at the same time, there is probably a lot of very logical overlap where there are companies that are doing things that do provide a lot of value to your folks. So what kinds of relationships have you, or what kinds of projects have you done in that regard?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we've done smaller things like working with a co-working community where they've advertised via our newsletter and been able to give our community members who are freelance or work from home discounts. We've teamed up with companies like Chelsea Women's Football Team, which was amazing. We're able to take 60 of our community members to one of their football matches. They gave us one of their lovely bars beforehand for everyone to meet and mingle and hang out. We've worked with organisations like Kate Spade on sort of events that we've run in their stores to help bring people together, do really creative and fun activities. So it's been great. It's been really interesting. We've done small things with UK-based bars or pub groups where we've done an event with them, and then they've been able to give sort of our community members discounts if they go back, and fun things like that, which is always cool.
That's amazing. And I imagine just by virtue of the social capital, the good that you've built up doing what you're doing, that you naturally end up attracting these relationships, these conversations come up through people who are in your community and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of them are people in the community who get in touch because they already work at some of these places normally. Some of them are people that hear about us via social media, some of them via the press, some of them by word of mouth. And the conversations happen in all sorts of ways. And I think there's been a lot of movement into the community space for brands, a lot more focus in that area from sort of a marketing, influencer, business perspective, because that is where the real people are. That is where the customers are, which is great. And we're able to kind of build up those relationships with those organisations that feel like a good fit, that are relevant for our members, that understand our heart and have a similar sort of direction on why they do what they do.
Yeah, so there's a lesson here, I think, for co-working space owners or collaborative space managers, anybody who's tuning into this, which is your communities, the people who are doing stuff in your space are doing things that are valuable to others, to individuals and to companies. And almost every space, pretty much every space I know of that does event programming in their space is probably not taking advantage of the opportunities that affords as much as they could be. There's probably really great groups who are either already meeting in your space or could be meeting in your space that are doing things that are valuable to other people in your communities. And there's, I think, a lot of natural opportunity for sponsorship or for some kind of cross-promotional partnerships. So looking out for those opportunities is huge. But another thing you mentioned earlier that I want to bring back is keeping track of the impact that you're having. So you've mentioned you've lost count. I had the same problem in my space where we were up to 400 something events that we had done over the course of 5+ years. And we did like a forensic study going back and tried to even count how many did we do? What events were they? What categories? How many people showed up? And it was a lot of work, but it was really worthwhile to be able to say, over the course of this many years, here's the gigantic list of all the events we've hosted, and here's the number of people roughly that we've hosted, because it makes for a heck of a story. And so do you find that this is, like you're still working while also running this as kind of a business on the side? How's it working out? Like, what are your thoughts going forward? Are you thinking of going bigger? Are you trying to kind of keep it where it is?
No, we've got big goals long term. As I say, it's slow and steady wins the race. So actually, for us, there's no huge time scales or that kind of thing. But for us, we would love to have a branch of the Lonely Girls Club in every city in the UK and potentially go global as well. I think what we've learned from our external social channels, the emails that we get, the Instagram DMs that we get, the TikTok DMs that we get, is that loneliness is an issue globally, really. And it's not just a London thing. Well, originally I thought it was a Holly thing. Turns out it wasn't. Then I thought it was a London thing. Turns out it wasn't. Then I thought it was just a big city thing. Turns out it's not. That loneliness can look so different and is so present for so many people. I think recent UK-based statistics are that at least that 50% of UK adults feel lonely at least some of the time, then goes up from there. That there is such a need for spaces to bring people together. If you're outside of the education system, if you're outside of maybe a religious organisation, or you're not someone that's maybe going to join a local five-a-side sports team, there isn't natural places for people to connect and make new friends. And whether that be because you've moved to a new area, whether that be because your friends are at a different life stage than you, whether that be because your kids have moved out, and suddenly you've got a heck load more time on your hands, that there is such a need for this. That for us, it's just about continuing what we're doing, but being able to extend that to other UK cities, global cities, to give women that space, to give them that community, to give them those tools to build those relationships that most of them are actually very good at doing once you give them the space and the time, which is often just what people are missing.
Yeah, and that question of how do you handle something when it gets bigger than the scope of what you can, your own world, when it's I'm sure you've got people messaging you from every corner of earth saying, hey, I want to open, I want to do my own version in my city. Where do I start? It leads to it. It's like a beautiful challenge and dilemma to try to figure out how to handle that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's funny because I'm actually working on an event with another friend of mine that I'd love to invite you to get your thoughts on, about scaling community specifically. And it was originally just going to be for IRL, but we're also going to be talking about online. But it's something that we've talked a lot about in the co-working movement, because co-working was the same kind of thing. It was a good idea that people started to kind of copy and run in their own cities. And so, we've had a lot of conversations over the years about how do you handle something when it starts growing around the world and gets bigger than you. And so I'd love to keep that conversation going for sure, Holly.
Amazing. No, it's a challenge. And I think it's one that when you're involved in something from the beginning, as you say, with co-working, now there's co-working spaces, co-working clubs, co-working networks sort of globally. What does it look like when you are 5.5 years on, like we are, and these conversations around the loneliness epidemic, around the friendship recession, around the need for community are getting bigger and more common, which is amazing. I think breaking the taboos around those is so key, and something which we've been trying to champion, even just with our name, for 5.5 years. But actually then you start to see the rise of it for other people in other ways, and in America and in other countries, which is stunning. And you learn to kind of see how things go and how things grow. And it can feel like a challenge when you were there at the beginning, when there was nothing going on and you had to Google, how do I make friends in London? But at the same time, for us, it's all about helping people and connecting people and equipping people, and that looks different for every single person.
Yeah. And the shift to scale it can be an intimidating one. It can be an exciting one. I'm sure you've had those moments when someone emails you and says, like, I want to start one in Los Angeles. You're like, great. I don't know what to do with you.
Oh yeah. I mean, even so for us, like we were getting emails for and TikTok comments and Instagram comments for maybe 18 months to 2 years before we opened our second branch. Our Manchester branch opened last year, sort of July, August time, so 2023. We'd been going at that point for nearly 5 years before we opened our second branch. And obviously COVID was a big player in that, because that kind of happened in the middle of everything. But actually that step to open a second branch, to scale, to then go, okay, well, what does branch 3 look like? What does branch 4 look like? What are the models that we would use to make this happen? It's a lot more questions than it is answers. And I think you end up testing, learning, trying, seeing what works. That every city is different, every branch is different, every arm and leg you add is going to be slightly different. And with the UK, just doing the UK at the moment, it's fine because I can jump on a train and get up to Manchester if I want to get up there and meet people and have conversations and understand what our community members want. But actually, if we turn that into a global thing, how do you go about that is the $1 million question probably. But it's exciting, and you learn as you go. And I think I'm probably been slightly more cautious than maybe other community founders in that regard, of doing things slightly slower, of, for me, getting the processes, getting the procedures, getting the systems and the tools in place. That now we've just launched Birmingham, well, actually our entire processes are all done. It's much easier to overlay and add and bring and add things on once you have those in place than say when we started branch 2, that we didn't have as much of that. So actually we were kind of learning as we went. Now it's a case of, okay, this is how we set up this is how we do this is how we do the newsletter here, this is how we do our ticketing, this is how we do our membership, this is how we do this. Much more straightforward once you kind of got your teeth into it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So actually, as we transition to kind of the wrap up and the links and all those things, if I were to want to start a chapter, or a friend of mine did, do you have a forum? Like, how does somebody come to you and express interest now and get onboarded as a potential chapter leader?
Yeah, so we actually don't really work that way, which I know is something that a lot of people would love us to do. But because of the model that we work under, if someone would like to sort of put their city forwards, then you can pop us an email. Our email address on our website, and our website is just llgc.co.uk, so quite easy. And we will then add that city to our list. That we launch branches typically in a very, I'd say, slow and steady way. Oftentimes I will go up and do the first event either with a city host or on my own, and then we will find a city host as time goes on, because for us, one of the biggest parts in someone, I think, being in our team or being a host or being what we call a community rep is that you kind of need to know what it's like to walk in the door on your own, to feel that anxiety of being a woman that's walked into a space, not knowing anyone, not knowing how it's going to go, because it's terrifying. Walking into a room full of people and going, I don't know a single person, this could go badly. What if no one likes me? What if we don't have anything in common? That fear is so real and so normal, so normal. And so for us, everyone that's on our team and that helps host in our cities has been a person that has gone through that can empathise with our community members, that knows what it's like to walk in that door on their own, to feel the fear, to have got through the door, because we've had people before, they've just been too nervous that they got to the door and then not felt confident enough to come in. And then the next time we've been able to help them do that when they've let us know, which has been great, and being able to sort of handhold if people really need it. So it takes a little bit of time with us, which is why we don't we open 3 branches a month, because we do things in a slightly slower way. We do make sure that everyone that kind of joins our team really gets it, really knows what it's like to be a woman who has feeling lonely, who is feeling isolated, or just wants to add more connection into their life. But actually we've kind of got this really long list now of cities that people have got in touch and said, I want my city to be next. And then we're able to bank it. And sometimes, so for example, Birmingham was our most recent one that we actually opened this week. We're tossing up between 2 or 3 cities, and Birmingham was the one that we'd had the most inquiries about. So it's like, right, okay, this makes the most sense then. And it's also very much centre of the UK. It's got a lot around it. It's easy for people to get to. It's obviously one of the 2nd, 3rd largest cities in the country, so makes a lot of sense. But we're a slow and steady wins the race operation in that regard. And I think if people would like to have a Lonely Girls Club in their city, in their country, then we're always, send us an email. We will add you to what is becoming a very long list, which is amazing and gives us a lot of scope for what the future holds, which is exciting.
Awesome. So it's LLGC Co UK.
Yeah, exactly.
And how else do folks find you? Where should they look for you on the internet?
Yeah, so if that's our website, everything is linked out on there. So each of our branches has their own Facebook community and their own newsletter. So everything is super local, super relevant to you. And we have our Instagram, which is just Lonely Girls Club, where it's for everyone. We post lots of different things from our events to advice, which is really fun. So you can find us there. And then you can also just search us on Facebook, Lonely Girls Club, and we'll pop up there too.
That's amazing. Okay, one bonus question that just popped into my head because you mentioned each one has their own newsletter. I'm curious what kinds of tools have been most useful to you. Is there one tool that's been like a lifesaver, like a newsletter platform or anything like that you're a big fan of?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So as I spoke about, my background is in marketing and my specialism is in CRM, email, loyalty, all that kind of area. And because of that, I shied away from introducing a newsletter for about 3 years because that was literally my bread and butter. It's what I did every single day. I was like, I don't need to do any more of this. But actually introducing our newsletter has been a game changer. I think each platform is obviously going to have different pros and cons for people. Ours is very affordable, if not a little bit sort of with some of the creativity and some of maybe the segmentation is quite simplistic, but for us that's kind of just all we need. But actually it's been a game changer in that those who aren't on Facebook, because there's a very big movement at the moment away from being on Facebook, being on social media, but people are happy to sign up to a newsletter because everyone still has email addresses for everything. You need one for everything. So everyone's still got an email address. So people, I think a newsletter has been so key for us, A, for those people that aren't on Facebook, but B, for people who use Facebook as a way to stay connected with friends, family. It's not a tool to find out about events. It's not a tool to see what's coming up next. A newsletter has been such a great way for us to kind of directly get into our community members' mailboxes, to get stuff to them in a way that they maybe is an easier mindset shift position and logical thing for them. It's been really great. I think in terms of growth, TikTok, which I know some people love it, some people hate it. I also have a love-hate relationship with it, but in terms of growth, in terms of getting our name out there, if you're a business owner or a community founder or a networker, that PR is a difficult area, but actually if you want to get your name out there, get in front of people, platforms like TikTok can be really great for that. And then for me, the newsletter really was the game changer in terms of really getting people that are a little bit anti-social media into our community, but also getting straight into our members' pockets, I suppose.
What's your choice of newsletter platform?
So the platform that is I have over the because of my background, last 10 years, I think I've worked with about 9 or 10 different CRM tools. So the one that I use for the Girls Club is MailChimp. It's not actually probably my number one choice of CRM or newsletter platform. That's something called Metria, but that is much further along the lines than where we are as an organisation right now. But I think MailChimp is great. It's financially very accessible. It's really easy to use, very, very sort of starter friendly. It was the first actually email platform I ever used when I first started in a marketing role a silly number of years ago. So it's very easy, very user friendly, gets the job done for us, means that we can get everything out to who we need to, whilst also being financially accessible, which is always a big one, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you digging into that with me. I know everybody always nerds out on, what kinds of tools do people use to run their communities and grow. So llgc.co.uk. Holly, it has been such a pleasure and an honor. Thanks so much for taking the time to come hang with me.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right. And for everybody tuning in, Coworking Values Podcast, give us a look. You could find the podcast on LinkedIn. Thanks to Bernie and the team who are doing this. And thanks to the European Coworking Assembly. I'm Tony Bacigalupo. You could find me. I'm Tony Be Good on all the socials. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.